And then Bill Walton, obviously, is a big one because Bill Walton, 2 seasons, I think he was just healthy. Only 2 seasons, he won Finals MVP, championship, sixth man of the year,
Right.
right? So like, who knows if he didn't have the ankle foot injuries, like.
At least for Bill Walton, we were privileged to actually watch him for those 1 or 2 years when he was able to win a championship.
Yeah,
that 1 year.
so
It's like,
yeah, it's hard to say with Walton and Sabonis. These are probably the two biggest what if center guys or big guys that yeah, it's crazy. I think Walton probably would have ended up probably top 5, 6, 7 around that range as well if he was like healthy his entire career. We said before he's probably like the most similar guy to Bill Russell that we've seen.
Right.
So extremely high basketball IQ. You know, just did everything for the team.
Yep. And
right?
did everything just the right way for the team.
Yep.
Just played the right way in every
Yep.
single aspect.
Like didn't particularly care about scoring. I wouldn't say he's the best like offensive player, but in terms of everything else, like defense, rebounding, passing, he was great.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the Blazers are such an unlucky franchise. I mean, just going over their history, right? They had so many unlucky moments. Like back in the early 70s, they had a number 1 pick. They used it to select LaRue Martin, who is now considered probably one of the biggest draft busts of all time, at least for number 1 picks, right? It's either him or Anthony Bennett. One of them is definitely the worst number 1 draft pick ever. And then, of course, we got Bill Walton, who had all these injuries and stuff. He was a franchise changer, and unfortunately, you know, he got injured. So couldn't really. I mean, he still won them a championship, which is, you know, definitely better than than most, you know, draft picks, right? But still, like, he could have won them so much more if he was healthy, right? And then, you know, picking Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. Then Bowie got injured as well. Always a very injury prone player. And then, you know, they actually had Drazen Petrovic, right? Trade him to the Nets. And they had Arvydas Sabonis, or at least the draft rights to Arvydas Sabonis. And then Sabonis came into the NBA like way too late, like when he was like you said, old and fat and slow. So they didn't get Sabonis in his prime, which they should have. And then in the 2000s, right, with Greg Oden, they could have picked Kevin Durant. Right, they didn't pick Kevin Durant. They got Greg Oden, and they got Brandon Roy, right, who had the knee conditions. So, yeah, I think the Blazers are just a really unlucky franchise. Probably the most cursed franchise in history, actually, in NBA history, actually. Another guy, David Thompson, I think is a huge what if as well, because so David Thompson was actually Michael Jordan's idol, right? You see Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, right? He brought David Thompson out to present him, North Carolina State, right? Obviously, like one of the best college players ever, right? Just like Bill Walton, one of the best college players. He actually broke Bill Walton's, what is it? He had a winning streak at UCLA in 74 games or something like that, and David Thompson was the one who broke it. But yeah, incredibly athletic player, basically Jordan before Jordan, right? Is what people call him. Yeah, and what he kind of topped out around like 27 points per game when he was only like 24 years old. Scored 73 points in the game before without a 3-point line, like, and it's pretty tragic because like he started doing all these drugs and cocaine and stuff and kind of took his career away, right? So one could only imagine like, oh, what if David Thompson could play out his career? I wouldn't say he's gonna be good as Jordan, but like you're talking about a guy that was Jordan's idol, so. He had hops, right?
But, you know, I think the thing that separates guys like, say, Jordan and LeBron from a lot of these other guys who were already great players, but athletic, is the work ethics. And because Jordan, as he got older and older, got better and better with other aspects. As Jordan got older, he became a better shooter, a smarter player. He added stuff to his game, fadeaways, a post fadeaway, the footwork, everything. And that's something where, like, you see a lot of great players, sure, when they're in their prime athletically, they can give you 27, 30. But if they don't keep evolving their game with, like, hard work and work ethics, by the time their athleticism dies down, they're not nearly as good by the time they hit around 30, 31. And we see that a lot. So whether David Thompson would be as good as Jordan, well, it depends on what his work ethic would have been if he never took, obviously.
Well, I wouldn't say he'd be as good as Jordan, but I'm saying he would be up there in the top shooting guards for sure. And then we have guys that, I mean, their career just kind of ended prematurely because of injury. Like George McGinnis, right, former MVP in the ABA. He actually pretty decently in the 76ers once he transferred to the NBA, but then he got injured pretty quickly. Kevin Johnson, right, another guy who is extremely good as a point guard, right, especially in his prime, but then like kind of ended early because of injuries, just like Penny Hardaway. Bernard King actually tore his ACL right in the middle of his best scoring season. Right? He was scoring like 33 points a game, then tore his ACL, and he was actually given, he was playing the tough East, right? He was giving a lot of those guys fits, like the Celtics, the Bucks. Those are pretty good defensive teams. Bernard King was like lighting those guys up. So he managed to have like one more good All-Star season, but he wasn't really the same guy. So yeah, that's another guy I wonder, like, because he was cut down, like he tore his ACL. This was in the 80s before they had the better surgery techniques and stuff like that. I really wonder how good Bernard King would have been. So another interesting what if is Pete Maravich. So Pete Maravich, he was also, I think, in the middle of his prime when he got those knee injuries. I think it was in the middle of his scoring season, right? And 77, I believe, he averaged like 31 points a game, led the league in scoring, and he put up like 68 points as his career high, which is the most ever by a guard until David Thompson broke it like a season later with 73, right? Actually both of these guys, right? So David Thompson, is impressive that he scored 73 with no three-pointer shot. And Pete Maravich, also very impressive that he averaged all these points without a three-point shot as well, right? Considering that he was a pretty good three-point shooter. So I think that's a big what if as well. Again, I'm sure like if he didn't get injured, maybe his career could have gone on for like a few more years. He only played like 10 seasons, right? So I think he would have played at least like maybe 5 more seasons if he wasn't injured, right? And then he would be in consideration for maybe the top 10 shooting guards ever, right? David Thompson, same thing. Could have played maybe 5 more seasons. Could have been in the conversation for top 10 SGs ever. So that would be pretty interesting. Another interesting what if, because a lot of these guys from back then were kind of before their time, right? So Pete Maravich, a sharpshooter way before his time, before the three-point line. So it would have been interesting to see how much he would average today. Jerry West, kind of a sharpshooter as well, would probably thrive in today's NBA as well. Then a lot of the stretch bigs from back then are kind of like prototype stretch bigs. Bob McAdoo is a good example, right? He was a stretch big way before that happened. Led the league in scoring 3 times, mostly actually on perimeter and mid-range shots, right? So a very atypical center. Jerry Lucas, right, another guy who kind of had an outside shot way before any bigs had an outside shot. And he's also a fantastic rebounder as well. So he had that post game as well. So yeah, a lot of these interesting guys, like what if you period shifted them as well? So Pete Maravich would be one example. If you didn't get injured and if you period shifted him, what happened, right? And then like Wes Lucas, Bob McAdoo, Jack Sigma as well. What if a lot of these guys, you put them in the modern NBA, I think they would do pretty well as well, given how the times have changed. The three-point shot has become more important. So the good shooters from back then would be pretty interesting to see now.